After escaping from the hell of their father, he awakens a fearsome SS rank power that kills demons. In 1830, during Japan's Edo period, a young girl suffered at the hands of her father. Her older brother, just a child himself, could only watch, helpless. The man dragged his daughter by the hair while she called out for Genta, but all he could do was stand there, frozen in fear. She was locked away in a dark, lonely storage room. A single flower inside caught the dim light from a crack in the roof, a small sign of hope in her isolation. When she was finally let out, Genta ran to the storage room during heavy rain, only to find that she had vanished. Panicked, he chased after her and found her standing on a bridge. Her bandage had slipped, revealing a red eye that looked almost unnatural. He felt guilty for not helping her, but she told him to stay quiet so he wouldn't get hurt too. But Genta had enough. He was done living in fear. That night, with nothing but the clothes on their backs, the siblings ran away together. They wandered for days, finding shelter in an old broken-down building to escape the cold rain. Genta did his best to look after his sister, showing kindness at every turn, while she stayed strong despite everything they had been through. One night, just as he was about to drift off to sleep, a man appeared and offered them a place to stay. When Genta woke up, he found himself being carried by the man. His sister, now rested and smiling, seemed at ease with him. The man helped Genta stand, and together they walked toward a small village. He explained that this place was home to blacksmiths who forged katanas. Soon, they arrived at his house, where his daughter ran up to greet him excitedly. Genta clutched his sister's hand tightly as the girl curiously asked who they were. Her father simply said they were children in need of a home and that they would be part of their family now. Overjoyed, the girl introduced herself as Shirayuki. Genta quickly gave his name, while his sister hesitated shyly before speaking. Shirayuki was eager to befriend them, her warmth almost overwhelming to the siblings, who weren't used to such kindness. That night, as the man cleaned his katana, Genta couldn't sleep. Watching him, he finally asked if he was a samurai. The man shook his head and explained that he was a sentinel, someone who protects what's important. Genta listened closely, the glint of the blade catching his eye as the first light of dawn appeared. Meanwhile, Shirayuki had woken up early, carrying a bucket outside while Genta stayed inside, practicing with a wooden stick. Later, Shirayuki took them to the river for a bath, where Suzanne met a girl her age. They held hands and jumped into the water together, laughing. Despite all they had been through, Genta and Suzanne slowly started enjoying their new life. By the afternoon, they were feeling more at home. During a playful moment, the new girl teased Shirayuki about always eating dango and how she should try some vegetables for a change. But Shirayuki just laughed, saying her mother made the best dango. Right then, the girl's mother called her and she ran off excitedly to tell her about her fun day. Watching this, Genta asked about Shirayuki's mother, Yokazi. He learned that it was Yokazi who had given permission for him and his sister to stay in the village, but he had never met her. She only lived in the shrine. Shirayuki explained that her mother was the Itsuki-haim, a sacred priestess who could not interact with ordinary people. Only the village chief and her father, as the sentinel, could see her. It had been years since Shirayuki last saw her mother, something she deeply regretted. But instead of dwelling on it, she called her friends to continue their walk. 2 years passed. By 1833, Genta was training every morning with the sword under the guidance of Majaro. Though the man always had a friendly smile, he never went easy on Genta, knocking him down repeatedly to remind him there was always room for improvement. After all, the only way to get stronger was to keep pushing forward. Genta was well aware of his struggles, but no matter how much he trained, he felt stuck, as if he hadn't improved at all. This frustration weighed on him. Matoharu, noticing his concerns, reassured him that progress wasn't always obvious. Even if things seemed the same, change was happening little by little. With that, the training session ended, and Matoharu left to take care of other responsibilities. His daughter soon came running over, handing him his katana. Afterward, Shirayuki playfully patted Genta's head, teasing him about his loss. He wasn't amused and told her to stop joking around. She countered by saying she was just acting like an older sister, but Genta quickly reminded her that he was the older one. Shirayuki, however, argued that she was the more mature of the two. making her the real big sister in spirit. Before the conversation could continue, Suzanne appeared, rubbing her eyes after just waking up. For some reason, Jinta looked completely flustered. Shirayuki seemed to understand, but simply smiled and invited him to have breakfast with his sister. Years passed, and Jinta found himself in a formal meeting. A woman acknowledged his exceptional demon hunting abilities, but he simply saw it as fulfilling his role as the village's sentinel. The discussion shifted to the latest demon encounter. Jinta revealed that this time the creature had disguised itself as a human to infiltrate Kano village unnoticed. This revelation caused immediate concern. Someone pointed out that such an incident might be connected to the fate of the village princess. Legend said that demons, who already lived for centuries, could achieve true immortality by consuming the flesh of an amiko. Another attendee dismissed it as mere folklore, but others weren't so sure. The previous Itsuki hime, Yokazi, had fallen victim to a demon, and the beast was only defeated because Matoharu sacrificed himself. The mysterious woman present speculated that the demons were now targeting Yara, the sacred sword passed down through generations of Itsuki-hime. The weapon, crafted using the finest techniques, had remained flawless for over 100 years, making it a prize worth coveting. Despite the growing concern, Kiyomasa, the son of one of the men present, dismissed the threat. He believed there was no reason to worry since the Itsuki-hime had 2 sentinels protecting her. He took the opportunity to jab at Jinta, calling him a braggart who thought he was some kind of legendary warrior just because he carried a sword. Jinta shot him a glare, but before things could escalate, the veiled woman reminded them that this was not the place for petty argument. Kiyomasa himself was also a sentinel, and such behavior was beneath them. With that, the meeting was adjourned, and everyone left, except for Jinta and the mysterious woman. Once the others were gone, she removed her veil, revealing her face without hesitation. She admitted how much she disliked the formalities she had to follow whenever they met. Jinta, now more relaxed, addressed her by her real name, Shirayuki. She smiled and told him she would try not to rely on him so much anymore. Jinta was confused by her words. Protecting the Itsuki-hime was a sentinel's duty after all. Blushing slightly, Shirayuki mentioned that Suzune had come to visit and suggested Jinta go see for himself. He moved the barrier to peek inside and saw his younger sister sleeping peacefully. He was immediately concerned. This was a sacred place, and outsiders weren't supposed to be here. If she was caught, she could be accused of blasphemy. Shirayuki, however, didn't seem worried. To her, Suzune had only come to see her brother, who was rarely home because of his duties. Jinta agreed that it was unfortunate, but he still wasn't comfortable breaking the rules. Gently, he woke his sister, smiling as he reminded her that the shrine was off limits to her. As the meeting wraps up, Jinta heads toward the forest to carry out his duty as a sentinel. Just as he's about to leave, Kiyomasa calls out to him, but Jinta ignores him. Frustrated, Kiyomasa grabs him roughly, demanding to know what's going through his mind. He's just learned that Jinta knows about his upcoming marriage to Byakuya, and he wants an honest answer. But Jinta, keeping his emotions locked away, simply says he's happy if the princess is happy, and if the village remains at peace. Kiyomasa isn't fooled. He knows Jinta loves her. But without any real response from his rival, there's nothing left to argue about. Stepping into the forbidden forest, Jinta quickly finds himself in danger. A sudden attack nearly takes him out, his opponent clearly believing they'd caught him off guard. But Jinta reacts fast, dodging just in time. He had expected the demon to have backup, but the creature tells him that its partner is busy handling something back in Kano. With no choice but to fight, Jinta engages in hand-to-hand combat, managing to land a strike on the demon's shoulder with his katana. However, its skin is too tough, and the blade doesn't cut through. The demon counters with a brutal swing, and though Jinta avoids the full impact, he still takes a hit, leaving a deep gash across his face. Blood trickles down, but he doesn't falter. Instead, he uses the opening to throw a powerful kick, creating just enough distance to launch another attack. This time, his blade strikes true, slicing clean through the demon's arm. The creature roars in pain but remains standing, unfazed. With only one arm left, it attempts another attack, but Jinta barely manages to evade. The ground is now stained red from the demon's severed limb, yet it simply picks up its lost arm, grinning. Rather than panicking, the beast seems amused, enjoying the fight as much as it had hoped. The demon takes a moment to reflect, commenting on the difference between humans and demons. While demons can live for centuries, humans only get a short time, but they pass down their skills and dreams, defying time itself. It's something the demon finds intriguing. Then, turning its attention back to Genta, it wonders why he fights so fiercely. What's his true goal in wielding a sword? Without hesitation, Genta makes his stance clear. He fights for his people, for those he swore to protect. Anyone who threatens that will meet the sharp edge of his blade. Meanwhile, back in Kano, trouble is brewing. A demon has entered Suzune's home and asks her a strange question. Does she know what she really is? Suzune, caught off guard, answers that the creature before her is obviously a demon. But the intruder smirks and reveals something shocking. She too is a demon. The words shake her, but there's no time for an explanation. The demon's gaze shifts to the clothes Suzune clings to, Genta's clothes. It assumes that her deep love for her brother is what keeps her feeling human, and it's clear that Genta must be a strong protector to inspire such devotion. Suzune, despite her confusion, feels warmth at the mention of her brother. She eagerly moves closer to the demon, confirming that Genta means everything to her. But then, the creature kneels, speaking in a softer tone. There's someone out there who wants to hurt Genta, it says. If Suzune truly cares for her brother, she should use her hidden power to help him. Suzune asks about the powers the demon mentioned, but instead of explaining, the creature simply tells her to follow along, assuring her that demons never lie. It promises that no harm will come to her, but Suzune isn't convinced. Even if the demon won't hurt her, it could still hurt her brother, and she refuses to take that risk. Seeing her hesitation, the demon touches her forehead, triggering a vision in her mind. Suddenly, Suzune sees something shocking: Shirayuki and Kiyomasa together in an intimate moment. Disgusted and overwhelmed by the strange magic, she recoils. The demon tells her that she has the ability to share visions of the future, though Suzune refuses to believe what she just saw. The creature urges her to come and see for herself, and this time, Suzune hesitantly reaches out to the demon. Meanwhile, Genta is locked in a fierce battle. Though he managed to land a solid hit earlier, the fight has shifted in the demon's favor. After a brief pause, Genta demands to know why the demon is attacking humans. The creature responds that demons exist for a purpose, and its purpose lies in this place. No matter how much it may want to change its fate, fighting against its nature is impossible. Hearing this, Genta makes it clear that he will show no mercy. The demon acknowledges that this is the smartest decision. After all, allowing a monster capable of consuming other demons and growing stronger to roam free would be foolish. With that, the creature's right arm suddenly swells to 3 times its size. A single punch from this monstrous limb is enough to rip Genta's arm clean off. Despite the excruciating pain, Genta refuses to back down. He tries to continue his attack, but the demon bites down on his blade, snapping it in half. Panic fills Genta's eyes, but pure instinct takes over. He snatches the broken blade mid-air and drives it deep into the demon's chest, bringing the beast crashing to the ground. Weakened and unable to rise, the demon admits that its mission is complete. It reveals that its companion has the power to see the future and has witnessed something terrifying. 170 years from now, a powerful deity ruling over demons will arrive in Kano. That vision led them to this village, where they discovered the most promising being of their kind. That is why the demon came here in the first place. Genta's heart sinks as he realizes the demon is talking about his sister. Before he can react, the creature pulls a final trick. It uses its severed arm to grab him, catching him off guard. Recalling Genta's earlier words about protecting his loved ones, the demon asks what he would do if one of those people no longer deserved his protection. If that day ever comes, who will he strike down? Back in the village, Kiyomasa takes advantage of the peaceful moment to spend time with his soon-to-be wife. But Shirayuki can't shake her worry about Genta, who is still in the taboo forest. Annoyed, Kiyomasa remarks that she must be wondering if Genta can hear what they're doing. The comment stings, and Shirayuki remembers a time when Genta stood by her side, hand in hand, promising to follow the path of Madaharu. With that memory fresh in her mind, she sheds a tear, but reminds herself that she made this choice for Kano's safety. Determined to follow through with her decision, she slowly removes her ceremonial attire and moves closer to Kiyomasa, who steps back, startled by her sudden change in behavior. Yet, Shirayuki gently holds his face and kisses him. At that moment, the demon proves to Suzune that the vision was real, because now, Suzune is watching it unfold right before her eyes. Meanwhile, Genta forces himself to stand, muttering that he isn't dead yet. Looking around, he realizes the demon has vanished. Without wasting another second, he sprints toward the village, desperate to protect his sister. But as he reaches the outskirts, he sees flames rising in the distance. Kano is burning. Despite the devastation, he pushes forward, knowing he must reach Suzune before it's too late. Back at the demon's hideout, Suzune demands answers from Shirayuki. She had always believed the princess truly loved her brother. She had done everything she could to keep Genta by her side, so why had things turned out like this? Visions of her brother running through the burning city flash through Suzune's mind. The betrayal she just witnessed was the final straw. She had always adored Genta, so much so that she held herself back, never growing up fully, just so she could always be his little sister. But now, Shirayuki had shattered everything. The princess, despite her regret, stood firm in her decision. The only way to honor Kano's legacy was to take on this new role, even if it meant betraying Genta's love. Suzune couldn't accept that. To her, Shirayuki had stolen the one thing she had always dreamed of and thrown it away for the sake of strangers. Overwhelmed with grief and fury, the child's body trembled. The pain twisted inside her, and in a moment of sheer agony, she ripped off the bandage covering her right eye. What lay beneath wasn't human anymore. A dark energy pulsed from the demon's presence within her, and her posture shifted unnaturally as the transformation took hold. The princess tried to reason with her, but Suzune had heard enough. The demon's voice whispered in her ear, feeding her anger. Genta had given everything for a woman who had so easily abandoned him. Wasn't it only fair to make her pay for it? The thought took hold, and before she even realized it, darkness filled the room. The power within her lashed out, knocking the human couple to the ground. Kiyomasa moved first, scrambling to grab the sacred sword Yurai, but the more experienced demon intervened, sending him flying across the room. The blade tumbled from his grasp, landing right at Suzune's feet. Her mentor's voice echoed in her mind, suggesting that Shirayuki would be honored to die by the sword her people had worshipped for generations. Without hesitation, the demon carried Kiyomasa away, leaving Suzune and the princess alone. A wicked grin spread across Suzune's face as she picked up the blade. This was going to be fun. Genta finally arrived, breathless and desperate. He rushed to Shirayuki, pulling her into a tight embrace, but it was already too late. Just as he held her close, her head separated from her body. Suzune stood before him, holding the severed head in her hands, her eyes gleaming with twisted joy. She welcomed her brother home, delighted to see him again. Genta's mind shattered. Memories of the woman he had loved flooded his thoughts, playing like a cruel film before his eyes. But his sister wasn't done. Laughing, she plunged the sacred blade into Shirayuki's body over and over again, each stab a mockery of everything he had fought to protect. Consumed by rage and disbelief, Genta raised his sword and swung at Suzune. But she was too fast. Dodging effortlessly, she shifted between the innocent little girl he had always known and the monstrous being she had become. Genta hesitated. Was this truly still his sister? Why had she done this? But Suzune simply tilted her head, confused by his sadness. She had done this for him. Shirayuki had betrayed him, so she had taken care of it. Wasn't that what he wanted? With a bright, childlike smile, she suggested they go home now. After all, she had spent so much energy fixing everything for him. But Genta couldn't answer. He could barely breathe. His world had been destroyed, and the sister he once knew was gone forever. Genta couldn't believe what Suzune had done. She turned her back on the people who raised them, the ones who treated them like family. And now, after killing Shirayuki, all she could think about was how tired she was, wanting to go home like nothing had happened. That's when it hit him. His little sister wasn't there anymore. The Suzune he once knew was gone. The weight of that truth crushed him, and for a moment madness took over. He swung his blade at her, but even as he did, there was no real conviction behind it. His hands trembled, his mind spiraled. What was he even fighting for anymore? His laugh came out bitter and broken, full of despair. Everything he ever cared about had slipped away. But then, as his arm throbbed with an unnatural energy, a new thought took root. Hatred. If nothing else, he still had that. Hatred for everything and everyone. Suzune panicked, scrambling to explain. She didn't mean to do anything wrong. She only killed Shirayuki because she thought it was what Genta wanted. He cut her off coldly. She finally understood. Her brother was leaving her too, just like everyone else. He was supposed to be different. He was supposed to stay. If he was really going to abandon her, then what was the point of anything? She snapped. Power surged through her, wild and uncontrollable. The shrine trembled under the force of her rage as she fired blasts of dark energy in every direction. Then, in a final act of madness, she lunged at Genta, her hand stabbing deep into his stomach. But when she tried to pull away, she couldn't. Genta had done it on purpose, locking his muscles to trap her in place. His grip tightened, and he raised his arm. A memory flickered Suzune back when she was just a little girl, pressing her forehead against his, trusting him completely. But this time, there was no kindness. His fist came down with all the strength he had, smashing into her without mercy. Then another blow, even stronger than the first. But before he could finish it, the demon that had corrupted Suzune stepped in, taking the full impact to protect her. Blood dripped from the creature's lips, yet it still managed to smile. Suzune staggered to her feet, heading toward the exit of the shrine. She turned back one last time. She didn't care about anything anymore. If the world had taken everything from her, then she'd return the favor. She would tear everything down. People, kingdoms, the entire world. And one day she would come back. That she promised. Then she was gone. The demon, even in its dying moments, laughed. Its mission was complete. When Genta, still seething, demanded to know why, it answered without hesitation. It had seen the future. The world would change. The light of men would push away the darkness, and demons would fade into mere legends. But now, thanks to Suzune, their existence would never be forgotten. With its final words, the demon crumbled into dust. And as if mourning the tragedy, the sky opened up and rain began to fall over Kano village. Genta stood there, holding Shirayuki's lifeless body, the weight of failure pressing down on him. All those years, all those promises, it had all led to this. His duty as a sentinel had ended, and he had failed. As the rain poured, drowning out all other sounds, he let out a cry of pure anguish. By dawn, Kano was nothing but ruins. He sat outside, tying his sandals, his mind fogged with memories of happier days, his family laughing together in the yard. But that was long gone. The village chief was waiting for him. Genta didn't hesitate. He told the man he was leaving. He had no home here anymore. There was only one path left, to prepare for the battle ahead. One day, the demon god would return, and when that time came, he would be ready. The chief hesitated, then asked a simple question. Was he really going to let his anger drive him to kill his own sister? Or was there still something else left in his heart? Genta admitted that Suzune was his little sister, someone he had always cared for. But he had also loved Shirayuki, and losing her like that, helpless, unable to do anything, was unbearable. A dark voice whispered inside him, pushing him toward revenge. He wanted to silence it, to stop himself from falling completely into hatred. If there was even the slightest chance of ending this without more bloodshed, he wanted to take it. The village chief, watching him closely, had expected him to fully embrace the path of a demon, but seeing that Genta still held on to some part of his old self gave the old man a bit of hope. Without another word, the chief handed him the yorai, the sacred sword. He asked Genta to draw it. The moment he did, the chief announced that from now on, Genta would no longer be just a warrior. He was the new bearer of the legendary blade. With that came a change, not just in status but in name. From this day forward, he would be known as Guinea. Guinea didn't feel like he deserved such an honor, but the village leader reminded him that the noble line of Itsuzi Heim was gone. If the sword remained untouched, it would just gather dust in the shrine, forgotten. At least now, in the hands of a sentinel, it would serve a purpose. And maybe, just maybe, Shiryuki's soul could finally rest in peace. The old chief then knelt before him, his voice filled with regret. He had known all along how deeply Gini loved Shiryuki, but he had also known Kiyomasa's feelings for her. Though their marriage was meant to strengthen Kano, the truth was, it had been arranged for the happiness of the chief's son. Gini, despite everything, didn't hold a grudge. Instead, he reassured the chief, easing the weight of guilt the man had carried for so long. Before parting ways, the chief made one final request. If Gini ever returned to Kano, he should build a shrine in his honor, a place to remember the warrior he had become, a reminder that even though people and villages may not last as long as demons, their actions could outlive them. This shrine would be called the Genta Shrine. Just as he was preparing to leave, Chitose appeared. To her, Genta hadn't changed. He was still the person she had always known. With a small smile, he promised to come back one day and told her to save some isamoka for him when that time came. As he stepped into the unknown, the sun burned against his skin, forcing him to shield his eyes. For the first time, he understood why demons clung so fiercely to their purpose. But he kept that realization to himself. Time passed. 170 years. An eternity for some, a fleeting moment for others. He finally arrived at another shrine where Amiko stood deep in thought. To her, the past had always felt distant, something that had no real connection to her life. But the sorrow in this man's eyes told a different story. And soon, she would come to understand the long and painful journey he had endured for all those years. Time passes, and we find ourselves in the third year of the Kai era. In a peaceful village far from the chaos of the world, Genta walks into a small local shop. Inside, he meets the store owner, a calm and composed man named Yuso, along with his friendly assistant Senji. After exchanging greetings, Genta sits down with Yuso to discuss the details of a new job he's offering. Once their conversation ends, he asks Genta to talk with Senji for a more private discussion. Senji, ever cautious, asks Genta how much he actually knows about Yuso. Genta replies that he's aware Yuso has a daughter, not related to him by blood, but someone he cherishes deeply. Apparently, a demon has been targeting the girl, and Yuso wants Genta to eliminate the threat. Hearing this, Senji realizes Genta hasn't been told everything. He fills in the missing pieces, explaining that the girl's name is Natsu, and she's about to turn 13. For 3 nights in a row, a demon has appeared outside her room, screaming the same terrifying words over and over. "Give me back my daughter." It's as if the demon truly believes that Natsu is his child, and he's come to claim her. Suddenly, the door bursts open. Natsu storms in, furious at Senji for slacking off. She spots Genta and immediately assumes he's the new bodyguard her father hired. Without giving Genta a chance to explain, Natsu coldly tells him to leave. To her, Genta is just another money-hungry mercenary drawn in by promises of coin. Senji tries to reason with her, saying that her father personally chose Genta. But Natsu silences him with a glare, declaring she doesn't need some Ronin tagging along and she's certainly not going to pay for one. With no way to change her mind, Senji quietly apologizes to Genta. That night, Senji takes it upon himself to guard Natsu's room. Katana in hand, he sits just outside her door, determined to protect her, even if she doesn't believe in him. He clings to the idea that maybe someone like him can be enough to drive off a demon. Natsu is surprised by his determination, but warns him not to take everything she says seriously. When she notices a trace of fear in his expression, she begins to suspect that he's only here because her father told him to be. Maybe this is Yuso's way of trying to reach her. She then drops a painful truth. She isn't Yuso's real daughter. Before the weight of her words can settle, a bone-chilling voice echoes through the night. The demon is back. Natsu freezes in fear as the monstrous figure rises from the ground, once again screaming for his daughter. She peeks outside and sees the demon for the first time. She's horrified beyond words. Senji tries to stand his ground, but terror locks his limbs. He can't even unsheath his sword. The demon lunges at him, and just as it's about to strike, a flash of silver cuts through the air. Its arm is sliced clean off. Genta has arrived. Calm, sharp-eyed, and deadly, he stands before the demon and demands to know its name. But the creature only repeats the same haunting phrase before charging again. Without hesitation, Genta moves. His blade cuts through the demon, slicing it in two. The creature vanishes into nothingness. For now. He turns to Natsu, asking how much she's willing to pay for protection like that. But Natsu, still trembling, can only ask if the demon is truly gone. Genta calmly replies no. Demons vanish into white vapor when they die. That one didn't. It'll be back. Later that night, Senji quietly thanks Genta for saving them and asks if he'll continue protecting Natsu. Genta agrees, though he remains deeply disturbed by what the demon had said. Give me back my daughter. Senji then reveals more of the truth. Natsu's real parents were distant relatives of Yuso, but they died a long time ago. Despite understanding the demon's rage, he insists Natsu is not its child. If she were, Yuso never would have adopted her. He goes on to explain that Yuso's life has been filled with loss. A demon killed his wife, and his only son disappeared and never came back. Since then, Yuso has blamed demons for destroying everything he loved. If Natsu were a demon's child, he would never have let her into his home. That evening, Natsu sits down to dinner with Yuso. He gently asks if there's something wrong with her new bodyguard. She admits that Senji might be a ronin, but he doesn't seem like a bad person. In fact, she's grateful her father still watches over her so carefully. Curious, she asks why he chose Genta. Yuso explains that lately there have been strange demon sightings in Edo, but there are also rumors, stories of a lone swordsman who slays demons with nothing but a katana. That swordsman is Genta. They say he can kill any demon as long as you can pay him, but more than that, he's someone you can trust. Hearing this comforts Natsu. Maybe her father truly does believe in her. The next day, Natsu finds herself deep in thought. As a child, she dismissed ghost stories, demon myths, and supernatural tales as silly nonsense. She never feared them because she didn't believe they were real. But now, her perspective has changed. She remembers the whispers from village women about Yuso's tragic past, how his wife was murdered and his son taken. Still, he clings to the hope that one day his son will return. That's why instead of adopting a boy, he brought home a girl. These realizations eat away at Natsu. She begins to understand that sometimes the scariest things in life aren't monsters or demons. They're the truths we refuse to face. That night, Senji and Genta once again guard Natsu's room. Senji admits he's here because he wants to make up for his failure during the last attack. In return, Natsu asks him for one simple favor. Next time, take her out for a walk. Later on, Natsu finally asks for Genta's name, and when he answers, she mentions that her father holds him in high regard. Because of that, she agrees to trust him with the task at hand. Genta notices how much she admires her father, which she considers normal, since that's how she was raised. He sees it as a good thing and tells her that Master Yuso also worries a lot about her. This makes Natsu a little happy. But then, Genta asks her about Master Yuso's son. Natsu immediately reacts nervously and claims she doesn't know anything. Seeing her get defensive, Genta apologizes, admitting he shouldn't have brought it up so suddenly. Natsu then asks him a strange question, whether a demon and a human can have a child. Genta answers yes, which makes her begin to doubt whether that demon was really what she thought. Understanding her meaning, Genta clarifies that the demon isn't family. He assures her of this because he knows the demon personally and has a connection to him. He then poses a question. How do they think demons are born? Most would assume it's common sense that they come from demon parents, but the process isn't always so simple. Genta explains that demons are born in many ways. Some are the children of two demons, others are the result of twisted interactions with humans, and some are born from nothing at all. He reveals that there's power in human thoughts. The darker they are, rage, hatred, jealousy, obsession, sorrow, the stronger they become. These emotions, buried deep over time, build up and condense until they eventually take physical form. Demons born this way are literally ideas made flesh. Right after he finishes speaking, the demon appears in front of them. Genta approaches it again and asks its name. but instead of answering, the demon demands they return his daughter. Genta counters his attacks and effortlessly pins him to the ground. He then turns to Natsu and asks for her permission to kill the demon. Even if he kills it now, it will return. That's because this demon is a physical manifestation of her inner emotions. It was her desire that summoned him, her pain, her longing, her silent plea for her father's attention. Deep down, she just wanted him to care for her like a real family should. And whenever someone says something she doesn't want to hear, the demon attacks. Genta adds that part of her has always wanted this to happen. Natsu, clearly shaken, begs him to stop. While trying to process everything, she wonders why this demon looks so hideous. Without mincing words, Genta tells her that no matter how many times she kills this creature, it will come back, again and again, until she feels truly satisfied. This makes Natsu ask what she should do. Genta simply tells her, just say the word, just ask him to end it. As she finally understands what's happening, Natsu reflects on her life. She always turned a blind eye to things she didn't want to face. She hid her weakness, locked it away. But in truth, she wanted to be loved. She never believed that love could be real. That's why, somewhere in her mind, she had the foolish idea, maybe if she were attacked by a demon, her father would worry about her. Maybe he'd finally treat her like a real daughter. As she thinks deeply about it, she realizes the truth. The demon is her. With that painful revelation, she says the one who deserves to be executed is herself. But Senji immediately stops her and brings her back to reality. He reminds her of how much she means to Master Yuso, that she's the most important person in the family to him. He tells her that it's time for them to finally have an honest conversation, like a real family should. Thanks to Senji's words, Natsu finally calms down. She cancels all thoughts of self-destruction, gains clarity, and with full confidence gives Genta permission to kill the demon. After fulfilling the request, Genta confirms that the demon is now truly gone. He stays in the same place where he struck the final blow and looks at something lying on the ground, something he expected. Since the demon was born from Natsu's obsession, the moment she rejected its existence, it had no reason to exist anymore. But even then, there's another presence in that place. A woman with the potential to become a demon herself. This brings Genta back to Sanji's words about how Yuso's wife was killed by a demon. The reason this demon kept repeating, "Give me back my daughter," wasn't just due to Natsu's obsession. It was mixed with something deeper. In other words, the demon's daughter was the child born from Master Yuso's wife. That thought reminds Genta of Susune. He never imagined they'd reunite like this, and she doesn't even remember him. That's why at the very end he asks her to tell him her name, but when she doesn't respond, he allows her to rest in peace by delivering the final blow. And as the demon was fading, Genta calls her mother. The next day, Genta tells Natsu and Senji that he wasn't there on a mission, he only came to repay a debt. He admits that just living a long life doesn't necessarily make someone an adult. But over time, he began to understand something. When he was young, he thought the world he saw was everything. He believed hurting others was wrong, but he was too young to realize there were deeper things under the surface. He had been too weak to act back then. But this time, he only wanted to settle the debt he left behind. Natsu doesn't quite understand what he's talking about, so Genta simplifies it. It's better to honor your parents while you still can. As he prepares to leave, he runs into Yuso. Senji asks Genta why he didn't say goodbye if they're already friends. Genta simply replies that it wasn't necessary. From the first moment he saw Senji, he knew he could handle things. That reminds Senji of what Natsu had said earlier, how everyone seems to hold Genta in high regard. He asks if there's any specific reason for that. Genta just brushes it off, saying it's a silly question. After all, how could a father ever be wrong about his own child? Before Senji can even process that thought, he's sent straight to work again. Natsu, choosing not to bring up the subject any further, instead asks Yuso if there's anything she can help with, because someone once told her it's best to honor your parents before it's too late. Yuso immediately understands that it is Genta. He reassures her not to worry about it. As his child, the greatest honor she can give her parents is to simply survive. Finally, we see Genta back on the road, continuing his journey. and as he reflects on everything that just happened, he can't help but let out a small smile. Now we jump to year 6 of the Kijin era. Jinya stops by a small ramen shop. The owner prepares a bowl and asks his daughter Ofu to bring it over. She does a great job as a server and he encourages her, clearly proud of her efforts. The shop owner tells Ginya there have been murders happening right out on the streets. He's scared for his daughter's safety, which is why he wishes the shogunate would tighten things up a bit. Ginya advises him to be careful with what he says and the man agrees. After all, he just wants to keep this restaurant going for more than 10 days. Apparently, he got this place for a bargain, which doesn't surprise Jinya at all considering the location. The owner finds Jinya interesting too, mentioning that he's been showing up every single day for the past 5 days. Ofu, annoyed, scolds her dad for teasing their only regular customer like that. The owner asks how the ramen tastes, and Jinya bluntly says, "It's not bad, just normal." The guy laughs at how honest he is, then admits he learned to cook in a rush. It wasn't anything serious, but he still opened this place because there's a story behind it. He figures Jinya's the same way, and surprisingly, Jinya agrees. Once he finishes his meal, Jinya pays without fuss. The owner guesses that being a runner must be profitable and asks what he actually does for work. Jinya replies plainly, he's a demon hunter. The man bursts out laughing, even joking that maybe next he'll be hunting dragons. As Jinya gets up to leave, the shopkeeper brings up those murders again, saying it reminded him of something. Apparently, the victims don't have any sword wounds. It's like they were torn apart by a beast. Even the body count doesn't match the number of people reported missing. It's suspicious, maybe even supernatural. Sounds like the work of a demon. That gets Ginya's attention. He asks where the attacks happened, and the old man tells him, around the Dobashi Bridge and nearby areas. Before he leaves, Ofu walks up to Jinya and tells him to be careful. It's been really dangerous at night. Jinya reminds her he's not a kid anymore, but she shoots back that he's still just a little too confident for someone his age. That night, Jinya patrols the area but doesn't find anything right away. Then he hears a woman scream and rushes toward the sound. When he reaches a bridge, he finds several bodies, all men. The woman he heard must be somewhere else. Just as he's thinking that, something slashes at him out of nowhere. He immediately goes on alert. He manages to block the next attack, but then another strike lands. He's wounded. That confirms it. This isn't just any attacker. This is a demon that can turn invisible. Jinya gets serious. He summons his demon arm and prepares to fight back against this sneaky opponent. His counterattack forces the demon to reveal itself. Jinya demands its name before killing it. The demon introduces himself as Muscle. Ignoring the demon's pleas, Jinya moves in for the kill, claws ready, but Muscle suddenly drops his weapons and raises his hands, claiming he never wanted to fight. Jinya isn't buying it. He says it's pretty bold to say that after attacking so many people, but Muscle explains he thought Jinya was the serial killer. Rumors say the culprit is a demon, and since Jinya was at the crime scene and smelled like one, he figured Jinya was the murderer. So, turns out this whole bloody clash was just a massive misunderstanding. Jinya, still skeptical, asks why a demon would even be looking for a serial killer in the first place. Muskel says he'll explain, but only somewhere private. He leads Jinya to his home. While shifting into a human form, he explains that some demons prefer living among humans. They can't lie, but they're excellent at hiding the truth. He pours Jinya a drink, admitting it's cheap sake, but at least it's not poisoned. Jinya casually replies that poison wouldn't kill him anyway, and then takes a sip. My uncle could probably say the same, not because he's immortal, but because he's had so much alcohol in his life that nothing phases him anymore. Muskie reintroduces himself as nothing more than a simple man living in a humble home. However, Jinya immediately recognizes that he's not just anyone. He's clearly a demon, one capable of disappearing entirely without even trying to hide it. Muskie goes on to explain that his power is invisibility, and because he's lived for over a century, that technically makes him a high-ranking demon. Jinya, however, simply shrugs and dismisses his status, calling him weak. Musk doesn't argue. He knows that demons with unique abilities like his are often labeled as superior, But that classification doesn't necessarily mean they're strong or fast. In fact, some so-called upper-class demons are actually weaker than those considered lower class. After a tense moment, the two of them confirm that neither is the serial killer. Jinya, though cautious, decides to believe Musk. Still, he questions why Muskie attacked him earlier, assuming he was the culprit. Muskie responds without hesitation, admitting it was out of revenge. He then shifts the conversation to the ongoing disappearances, asking if Ginya knows anything. Ginya explains that based on what he's heard, the number of missing persons and the number of discovered bodies don't add up. Earlier, he'd even heard a woman scream, but when he investigated, only male corpses were found. Muske shares his theory that the killer only murders men and kidnaps women. He knows this because his own wife, Hatsu, a kind-hearted human who accepted him despite being a demon, had also been taken. She vanished a month ago, and 10 days later her body was found in the river. The police reported signs of abuse on her corpse. Devastated, Muskie admits that Hatsu never deserved such a cruel fate. She truly loved him, something he rarely felt from humanity. While he doesn't live among humans out of love for them, Hatsu genuinely cared for him. Her loss left him with nothing but a deep hatred for the killer who violated her and stole her away. Musk makes it clear that he wants revenge and he wants to handle it himself. He asks Jinya to stay out of it, but Jinya refuses, stating firmly that demon hunting is his only purpose. It's all he knows. Realizing Jinya won't back down, Muskie proposes they work together. They can search separately, share whatever they learn, and if they catch the killer, Muskie asks for the right to finish it himself. Ginya questions whether Muskie is truly ready for that. Killing someone, whether human or demon, isn't easy, and Ginya wants to know if Muskie can live with the consequences. Muskie, serious and composed, insists that demons don't lie, not to others and not to themselves. That response convinces Jinya. He agrees to team up, and Musk finally relaxes, knowing there was no way to push Jinya out of the case anyway. Days and nights go by, but neither of them uncovers anything useful about the case. One evening, frustrated by the lack of progress, Muskie suggests they take a more active approach and start hunting the killer themselves. Jinya agrees. Later that night, as they return home, Muske asks Ginya why he hunts his own kind. Ginya replies bluntly that first and foremost, it's for the money. Jinya doesn't even bother lying. He admits it's because humans hate demons and want to get rid of them, so they pay really well for someone to do the dirty work. Still, Muskie doesn't think that makes Jinya a bad person. He doesn't see him as the type who kills without a reason. Plus, Jinya enjoys the sake he buys with that money, so he can't really complain. That comment makes Jinya chuckle a bit, and Muskie laughs along. It is kind of funny. Then Muskie asks if there's another reason why Jinya does it. Jinya explains that, yeah, there is. He wants to get stronger. He's living for one goal, to stop a certain demon. That's when he opens up a bit. He says he used to be human, but demons killed someone he loved and turned him into what he is now, so it makes sense that he hunts the most dangerous ones. After hearing that, Muskie asks if he's planning to stop this demon or kill them. Jinya thinks back to that day, the one that changed everything. He takes a moment to answer, then simply says he'll decide when they finally face each other. Either way, he knows he has to get stronger. Right now, he's still way too weak. Changing the topic, Jinya then asks Muskie what he plans to do once he gets revenge for his wife. Muskie says, honestly, nothing in particular. He hates conflict. That's actually why he takes on the form he does. He didn't want to be hunted by humans or targeted by other demons. All he ever wanted was a quiet life, ideally with his wife by his side. So once he avenges her, he just wants to live in peace and spend the rest of his life taking care of her grave. Jinya brings up something Muskie said earlier, that he doesn't act without a reason. But now he admits he might have given Muskie too much credit. He says that because, truthfully, he hates his younger sister, and he doesn't even know why. The next day, Jinya visits the same ramen shop again. While they're preparing his meal, the waitress, Ofu, asks if he's made any progress finding the serial killer. That catches Ginya off guard. he never mentioned anything about that. She quickly clarifies that he once told her he hunts demons for a living, so she figured investigating that rumor might be part of his job. Understanding her reasoning, he tells her the investigation isn't going well. The shop owner chimes in, saying times are tough for everyone right now. Jinya agrees and then jokingly points out that no one even notices how cute the waitress is, criticizing how rushed the people in Edo are these days. That makes Ofu blush, and her dad walks over asking if Jinya really thinks his daughter is cute. Jinya answers honestly, 8 out of 10 people would find her beautiful. The old man praises Jinya for having such good taste. Ofu scolds her dad, clearly embarrassed, and tells him to stop. It's just making Jinya uncomfortable. She adds that someday she's going to move out anyway, so for now she just wants to enjoy being his daughter a little longer. Her dad gets a little emotional and apologizes, then quietly heads back to the kitchen. Once things calm down, Ofu apologizes to Jinya for the awkward moment, but he tells her it's fine. Her dad seems like a good person. Looking at Jinya's expression, Ofu gently asks if his own father wasn't like that with him. When he doesn't respond, she quickly apologizes for prying. Then Jinya opens up. He tells her he has a younger sister named Susune. Their father was abusive toward her. He even told her she wasn't really his daughter, which is why Jinya eventually left home with her. Even so, he doesn't hold any grudge against his father. Honestly, he understands what the old man was feeling. Life's just complicated sometimes. Later that night, Muskie meets up with Jinya again, asking if he's found out anything new. But Jinya's still got nothing, which leaves Muskie a little disappointed. He was really hoping they'd be closer to catching the criminal by now. As they walk across a bridge, Muskie notices a girl standing alone in the distance. Jinya recognizes her immediately. It's Ofu, the soba shop owner's daughter. He points her out, and Muskie comments that she shouldn't be out there alone. Jinya says he'll go check on her, and Muskie agrees, no problem. When Jinya approaches, Ofu stays calm and greets him with a soft smile. She asks if he thinks the moon looks beautiful tonight, then wonders if he's out walking alone. Jinya starts to say he's with Muskie, but Muskie suddenly turns invisible and whispers that he'll leave them alone so Jinya can walk her home. After all, neither of them wants her getting attacked. Ofu notices Jinya hesitating and asks if something's wrong. He tells her everything's fine and then asks what she's doing out this late. She says she was looking at the cherry tree, but Jinya mistakenly thinks it's a willow. Ofu corrects him gently, inviting him to take a closer look. It's called a snow willow. Its branches droop under the weight of its blossoms, so it looks like a willow under snow, but it's actually a type of cherry tree. Jinya finds it fascinating, a cherry tree that looks like a willow but isn't really either. In the end, he says, so it's not one or the other, and feels kind of sorry for it. But Ofu doesn't see it that way. She says it's beautiful. Even if no one sees it as a true willow or a proper cherry tree, the snow willow still blooms with gorgeous flowers every year. She doesn't know what the tree feels, of course, but she doubts it hates its own existence, because if it did, it wouldn't blossom every spring. There's no need to pity it, she says. Willow or cherry, when spring comes, it's full of beautiful flowers. Hearing all this, Jinya can't help but smile. It's a lovely thought, and he learned something new. That's just how flowers live. Ofu laughs softly at his comment, which keeps the mood light and warm. Jinya offers to walk her home, knowing her father's probably worried since it's late and the streets aren't exactly safe. She happily agrees, and even asks him to with a smile. And well, that's how our episode comes to an end.